Well, you guys know how we often do here with All Things Covered. You know, sometimes we have our normal episodes where we highlight, names that have been, on your TV monitors over the last few days, over the last few weeks. But we also tend to offer flowers to living legends. And this is a flower episode once again. I have the privilege of being able to interview a guy that I grew up watching, a guy I wish I could jump like, a guy I wish I could dunk like. Unfortunately, God didn't bless me with those said abilities, so I had to play football. But this is an individual who was a 9-time All-Star, appeared on 7 All-NBA teams, 2-time dunk contest champion. His number 21 is retired by the Atlanta Hawks. He also has a statue in front of the building. Listen, it's one thing to get your jersey retired, but when you have a statue in front of the building, you're a big deal. Hall of Famer, one of the best nicknames ever in sports. The human highlight film himself. Mr. Dominique Wilkins is joining us here. Pat Peterson, Bryant McFadden, All Things Covered. How you doing, Dominique?
Good. How you doing, man?
Man, it's a great day to be alive. It's a great day to be alive. I know you're a busy man, but thank you for joining us here. But before we jump into your unbelievable career, let's talk about the recent events in the NBA. If you guys been living under a rock, the Milwaukee Bucks took care of their business, beating the Phoenix Suns in 6 games to be able to win that NBA championship. The Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, was an unbelievable player, not just in the regular season, but of course in the playoffs. And in 1996, you actually won a few titles, Dominique, playing in Greece. That was just 2 years after Giannis was born. At what point in time, or did you ever imagine seeing what some people view as the best player in the NBA, coming from Greece?
Oh man, he is a special talent. And I tell you, he's done some things the guys that his size only very few have ever done. He's got an unbelievable, ability to get anywhere he wants on the floor. And he has the toughness to go with it that makes him a very hard guy to deal with. But I was really happy for him because he's worked so hard. Him and Middleton has played 8 years together. To see him win the championship was special for them in the city of Milwaukee. But man, what a talent. They call him the Greek freak for a reason. He's the real deal.
So do you believe he's the best player in the world right now?
Hey, until you dethrone him as champion, yes, he is.
So when you look at the best player in the world, of course, LeBron James will always be in that conversation, right? Based on how well he's been playing in years past. When you look at, Kawhi Leonard, you got some unbelievable stars. But Kevin Durant, we saw what he was able to do. Steph Curry had a nice run this past season as well. But when you look at some of the elites of the elite in the NBA, what separates Giannis from the rest of the pack in regards of him being the best player in the world right now?
Well, he's won a championship. I think that's plain and simple. And I'm one of those guys who don't believe in comparisons and all those different things because, you have different eras, different players. But you talk about today's league as far as how great some of these players, a lot of great players. But when you win a championship, you're anointed as greatness. So, he came into the series with the mindset that he had to win this year, and he did it.
Yeah. And speaking of Giannis, you got a chance to see him up close and personal, right? In the Eastern Conference Finals against your said Atlanta Hawks. When Giannis went down in Game 4 with that hyperextended knee, did you think there was a chance he would return in that series against Atlanta? And not only returning, but being able to dominate like he did?
No one thought he would return.
Yeah.
So for him to return, and not just return, but be effective the way he was. I mean, and look, Giannis is a problem for everybody.
No question.
Everybody. Here's a guy 6'11", 7 foot, has athletic ability off the charts and the ball handling skill and game to go with it. So, he's a difficult guy to guard. You got to guard him by committee.
Yeah. And the Bucks just captured their first title in 50 years. The Hawks were very, very close as well, being able to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's been a long, long time, when you look at the Hawks being as relevant as they were this past playoff run. But when you look at the Atlanta Hawks, what would be your everlasting takeaway from their unbelievable playoff run this current season?
Well, they were a Cinderella team this year. It's no question.
Mm-hmm.
I was so proud of our guys, the way they played, how they played, and the confidence that they play with. This is going to be a special team moving forward, I guarantee you. And it's what I see and what we see in our young players, and what Trae Young has done has been nothing short of remarkable, along with all his other teammates. And so this is going to be a special team moving forward.
And talking about moving forward, there are a few pieces, you may have next year, you might not have, most notable, John Collins. Do you believe he will return to the Atlanta Hawks?
Well, we all hope. He remains. We have a special core group of guys, and our basketball ops team will do the best that they can to ensure that we have the best pieces in place. So I'm looking forward to what we can accomplish moving forward. So I'm looking forward to next season.
A two-part question for you, Dominique. We saw what Trae Young was able to do, especially in the playoffs, right? Dominate, assist, orchestrate the offense, put points on the scoreboard. But is there another level to his game that he hasn't really tapped into yet? And the second part of that two-part question, why it seems like people are they're overlooking Trae Young. I mean, didn't make the All-Star game. If you look at some of the players that are starting to opt out of the Olympics, they still didn't give him an opportunity to showcase his ability on a global stage. It seems like they're still sleeping on Trae Young for whatever reason. Why do you think that's the case?
First of all, first part of the question, he hasn't even reached this ceiling yet.
Whoa.
This kid is remarkable. And
say that again. You say he hasn't reached his ceiling.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't reached his ceiling yet. This kid is a special player. I see him every day. So I see things that a lot of people don't see. We see things a lot of people don't see. So it's just amazed me, how hard this guy has played and what he's done. First of all, he got overlooked on the All-Star team. And I know about getting snubbed. He's been snubbed a couple times, and I think it's a lot of times unfair. But you know what I love about him? He doesn't let that slow him down or affect him. He keeps proving them wrong. And that's all you can do when people don't give you your due.
No question. I can tell you this much. The Hawks, they have a nice building block in place to be able, you talked about the future and how bright it is. Yes, you better get your shades because it will be a bright future on the hardwood when it comes to the Atlanta Hawks, especially with Ice Trae lighting that thing up. Now it's time to give you your flowers, Dominique. I believe in giving the great ones their flowers, and I wanted to make sure I had an opportunity to talk to you, not just highlight basketball, but highlight you. The human highlight film, the human highlight reel is what they called you. Let's go back in time. The first time you dunked, or the first time you really, really dunked was when?
I was 13.
You're 13. Okay. Was it a one-hand? Was it a one-hand dunk, two-hand dunk? Do you remember?
It was a one-hand dunk. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, and that's where it all began for me.
Yeah.
We playing on those tough playgrounds in that neighborhood, man, you had to show that you had some toughness, and, you had to have some game or you never got picked, So I was fortunate to be blessed with, the ability to elevate off the floor. And that's a God-given talent. And so, and the guys in the neighborhood exploited that because I used to have to play against the older guys for money, so
no doubt.
So it was a fun time. It was a
smooth hustle. One thing I can say about you in your dunking career, growing up for me in the 80s, being a young lad in the 80s, watching basketball, watching the Showtime Lakers, watching the Celtics, watching you, I loved your dunking style because you were a power dunker. You weren't a finesse dunker. It seemed like it was a personal issue with the rim anytime you got to the rim. And I love that, the physical nature in which you attack the rim with anybody who was standing in front of you. And I also love, because most guys could, be only a 1 foot dunker. You were a 2 foot dunker, but you can go off 1 foot as well. You know what I mean? Right. And just the velocity in which you dunk the ball with was something that caught my attention. And you talk about, the great ones in that I mentioned, the teams that I mentioned. What type of inspiration did you take from someone like Julius Dr. J. Irvin? Was that the guy for you when you look at who you modeled your game after, when you look at the body style and how he played the game?
Well, he was my idol. I idolized Julius. And what kid didn't idolizing around that time, kids my age group, during those years, he was the king. And I still say all the time, Julius, the grandfather of us all, everything we do flows out of Julius Erving. And so we looked forward to playing against Julius. I played the game at one speed, and that was all out. I was a very emotional player, and not so much as verbally, but just my energy. And so I displayed that on the court. So, my thing was to attack you all the time, try to keep you off balance. And that's the way I create advantage for myself. Because if I get 1 or 2 fouls on you early in the game, now that advantage totally shifts in my direction. And so that was my mentality. And that was a lot of great players' mentality.
Yeah. I mean, you played in an era, man, basketball was serious. It was no friends. It was no friends back then when you guys played. It was personal. I don't know what the relationships were off the court, but when you guys were playing for 4 quarters, it was personal. I didn't like you. You didn't like me. We all knew it. The fans didn't like each other.
Listen, man, we all respected each other, but we didn't. So very few guys had a relationship off the floor, but it wasn't. I mean, we didn't go visit each other. We didn't travel, on trips.
Yeah.
That wasn't us, man. We didn't want people to get that close to us.
Yeah.
And Bernard King, Larry Bird, Dr. I mean, all them guys was like that, man. They respected you and you respected them, but that was it.
That was it. No, and if you mentioned before that Larry Bird refused to shake your hand, why is that? Why was that?
My whole career against Larry. Because you're trying to create an edge. You want to get in somebody's head.
Oh, Larry, so that was a little tactic by Bird.
It was a tactic.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And all of us did it. All of us did it, But Bird, man, he was notorious for it. But if you talk to all those guys today, all of us are friends.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we still like to talk about the time that we played and how tough it was. So some of us are like brothers, like Karl Malone and Drexler and myself. We're very close, and we get giddy when we have to talk about basketball, see each other, because, man, it's a special moment in our lives.
And the competitors you guys were, man, I can imagine, man, just the on the court presence that was there. And the trash that was being talked, was Bird the best trash talker you played against?
He's one of the best to ever do it. He's one of the best to ever do it. Him, guys like Chuck Person. There was quite a few guys that
the rifleman Chuck Person, number 45,
Michael Jordan. I mean, all guys.
Oh man, I wish I could be a fly on the wall, man, in an arena when you guys were going back at it, man. I knew it was some heavy trash being talked on that court, man. But you had the luxury of playing, the majority of your basketball life in the state of Georgia. You went to Georgia. I think the Jazz drafted you. You didn't want to go to Utah. The Hawks traded for you. What has Georgia meant for you, being in the state since you were 18?
Well, man, Atlanta is everything. The state of Georgia, everything to me. I say all the time to people, I say, even though I'm not from Atlanta, I'm from Atlanta. This is my home. And this city, these fans has kind of adopted me and accepted me as their native son here. And so I've never been accepted in my life before like Atlanta has accepted me. I've never been accepted like that before in my life, because we always moved around as a family, and Atlanta has made me a very special person in this community. So, man, I'm never leaving that.
No doubt. You did a lot for the city. I mean, you jumped off the porch running, in the NBA. In year 4, you really took the league by storm. I think you averaged around 30 points per ball game. You led the league in scoring. The team was rolling as well. The Hawks won 50 plus games for 4 straight years. Excuse me. What started to click for you during that fourth year mark, where you were just a dominant scoring presence, a playmaker, and collectively being a leader on the team in regards to you guys winning at least 50 games in 4 straight seasons?
Well, we got pieces, and we got maturity. We had some chemistry. We started to gain and build momentum. And the things that started to happen in that fourth year, with the Kevin Willises and the Doc Rivers and the Randy Whitmans, Tree Rollins, Antoine Parker in battle, and Spud. So we had pieces that were really solid. And so we started to gain respect in the Eastern Conference that they knew that they're playing against Atlanta. You're going to have to put your hard hat on because we were going to work. And so that's our mentality.
And at that time, the basketball arena was the Omni. The Omni used to be rocking. A lot of people don't remember the Omni. They only remember State Farm. You know what I mean? For you basketball heads out there, You guys know what the Omni meant for the Hawks. You know what I mean? So that home court advantage clearly was in your favor. You talk about the success I just mentioned individually and as a team. But back then, the East was loaded. I mean, you ran into some beasts in the second round, led by the 86 Celtics. Some folks believe that's probably one of the best NBA teams ever. The 87 Pistons and the 88 Celtics again. Which one of those groups was the toughest?
All of them. All of them. I mean, and they brought a different type of toughness, each one of those teams. The Celtics had 5 Hall of Famers.
Yeah, 5. Think about that. Think about that. Think about that. 5.
You had Detroit with a few Hall of Famers on that team. You got Philly with 3 or 4 Hall of Famers on that team. Then you got New York. I mean, I can go down the line that teams, you had no nights off. So it wasn't one team bringing more physicality than the other. All of them was physical. Detroit, made it more known that that's the way they was going to play. But everybody played physical like that.
And I love it. That drew me to the game, of watching basketball because it was personal. I felt like you guys, like you said, the respect was there, but there was no love on the court in between the whistles. And you guys attacked the game in that way. And that's something that, we're not really seeing in today's game because, of course, things have changed when it comes to rules and regulations and stuff like that. But you guys, you had it on your mind and you let it off your mind in between those 4 quarters on the hardwood court. So I can tell you this much: if you don't run across those teams, Dominique, I think your career it goes in a different direction because, like you said, the Celtics they had 5 Hall of Famers. Like,
well, it wasn't one team.
No, that's the thing. The East was loaded.
You had Chicago. They did. We don't have to even talk about that. And they had the Celtics. You had New York. You had Philly. You had Cleveland. You had Milwaukee.
Yep.
Indiana. All them teams were playoff teams.
Back then, the East is what the West is now in today's NBA. When you talk about the depth of competition, you know what I mean? Back then, in those days, in the late 80s, I mean, the East, like you said, you just named 6 legit teams that could easily come out of the East.
Yeah, and no question. But, you look at the league as a whole in those days. I mean, East Coast, West Coast, it didn't matter. They were all good. Portland was a monster, big team. LA was a monster. They were a big team. You had Denver was going to run you out of the gym. They were averaging over 120 points a game.
Yeah.
So, you had a lot of great teams back then. The Rockets, had the San Antonio Spurs, the Mavericks. All them guys was good. They were playoff teams,
Competition was at an all-time high. I'm going to throw out a date to you, Dominique. Let me see if you remember this date. May the 22nd, 1988. You remember what happened on that? 1988.
I don't know. It might have been a slam dunk contest, something I can't remember.
It wasn't a slam dunk contest. This happened in May. That's the day one of the most epic back and forth duels in NBA history took place.
Yeah. My stuff. Yeah.
You and Bird. Now, I wonder why Bird didn't want to shake your hand because you was a serious threat for him. You dropped 47 points in game Celtics versus the Celtics in the East semifinals, but Boston beat Atlanta by 2 points. Larry Bird scoring 20 in the fourth quarter, despite the loss. How do you remember that game over 33 years later? And what was the greatest? Was that the greatest game you ever been a part of?
I think it was because of the situation, the circumstances. You was in the Eastern Conference semifinals, and to play that way against a juggernaut like the Celtics. And I think the biggest compliment I've ever gotten, I remember Larry Bird said it in the game, we both deserved to win. But unfortunately, one of us got to go home.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest compliment in a loss that I've ever got from a great player because they knew what a tussle, that series was. And, we blew the chance to end it in 6 games at home. But, it happens, And when you're playing against a great team, they find a way to beat you.
Yeah. And Kevin Durant just beat that Game 7 scoring record this past postseason versus the Bucks when he dropped 48. So your record was standing for a long time when you look at some of the prolific Game 7 performances we've seen in years past. It just was broke this past postseason. And then when you transition to outside of the individual battle between you and Bird, you had another battle between another great one. Man, listen, man, you had a great career. You played against some living legends. You dunked against some living legends. Man, a few months prior, you took a loss in the dunk contest finals against Michael Jordan after beating him in 85. What did that moment mean for the league? And do you still think you should have won that dunk contest?
Well, I'll put it to you like this. No matter who won, the fans got their money's worth.
Yeah, they did.
But I won? Yeah. Did Michael think he won? Yeah. I mean, we put up an epic battle. But the fact that they're talking about it 30-some years later, it lets you know it's the greatest dunk contest ever. Yeah.
And All-Star Weekend at that time was in Chicago at the old Chicago Stadium. Right? Not the United Stadium where they play at now, the old Chicago Stadium. But some people, hey, Dominique, some people feel like, Mike got some home cooking. He got some oxtails, some mac and cheese, some candy yams, some sweet tea.
There was a little bit of home cooking in Chicago.
Do you think, because, all right, so what sealed the deal for Mike was the free throw dunk where his foot was a half step inside the free throw line. And you came back with a heck of a windmill. And many felt like that windmill deserved a 50 because if you got that 50, correct me if I'm wrong, you would have won, but they gave you a 45.
Yes, they did.
and I think that's what you're saying when you talk about that home cooking. Them oxtails kind of came through in the clutch for MJ because that windmill, man, was powerful.
Yeah, I mean, but sometimes when you're the home court favorite,
it happens.
So what are you gonna do?
Hey, but I can tell you, like you said, even 34 years ago, we're still talking about that moment. So clearly, you guys did what you were supposed to do. What kind of trash was there? Any trash being talked between you and him? I know you guys had a lot of respect for each other, but y'all were going to battle.
Not a single word.
Not a single word.
Not a single word. We had more respect for each other than that. We didn't have to. Our game spoke for itself, so we didn't have to do that.
So Dominique, all the dunks you were able to achieve in that moment, was that another dunk you had in your back pocket that you didn't do that you probably wish you probably would have tried, or everything that you set up to do in that dunk contest you were able to do?
No, I thought, if I had a chance to do, I'd do the same thing because those winning dunks. Matter of fact, the dunk I did before that was good, but it wasn't my best one. Out of that round, the last one was my best dunk, and I got a 45. I'm like, okay, here we go.
that windmill for you listeners, you young listeners that don't know exactly what we're talking about, go back YouTube. You definitely could see the entire dunk contest. Thank me later. It's a must watch. Dominique MJ put up an unbelievable performance. Now look at the current state of the dunk contest. Why do you believe superstars are not participating in the event like it used to be when you were participating in the event?
Well, guys got so much stuff going on. First of all, All-Star Weekend. I mean, they had a ton of things going. And the dunk contest is another thing they put on their plate. But I think the other flip side of that is that I don't know if they really want to know who the best is.
Yeah,
we wanted to know who the best was.
It was personal.
It was personal.
Yeah, it was personal. It was personal. We talked about that personal vendetta early on when you guys were on the court, playing a for real game, and that personal standpoint follow into extracurricular activities. When Bird did the 3-point contest, you remember they said he walked into the warm up in the locker room, say you guys might as well just get ready for second, talking trash. You know what I'm saying? That's what you guys did.
Yeah, he basically said, which one of you guys is going to take second place tonight? That's basically what he said.
Hey,
and that was it.
That was it.
He had a way to get in your head, boy. He was something else.
No doubt. Hey, Nique, question for you, and I'd love to get your take. I never understood why, but, in the 1992 offseason, of course, the Dream Team was assembled, and you injured your Achilles that year. but they started to put together that team before that injury happened, if I'm not mistaken. Do you think if you don't get injured, you find your way on that dream team?
Oh, I would have been on that team. Yeah, I would have been on that team.
Okay.
It just when I got injured, it is what it is, But yeah, I definitely would have been on the team if I wouldn't have got injured. I'm having a hell of a season, hell of a career. I mean, I talked to Clyde and all those guys who did make. I mean, of course. I mean, I would have been on, of course.
Yeah. What was it like for you being the face of the organization, the Hawks, that is, for such a long time, 12 years, and then eventually getting traded?
You know what? That was the most disappointing, gut-wrenching moment of my career because I didn't want to leave Atlanta. And when I got traded, man, it's like something died. I didn't have fun at the level I was used to. I still played hard all the time, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same.
Was it a mutual decision or more, one-sided?
It definitely wasn't mutual.
Gotcha.
They traded me and basically told me it was nothing going on, and I had no idea they was making that trade.
Wow. And you went on to play, for quite a few organizations. You played overseas. You played for the Clippers. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Hawks traded you to the Clippers for Danny Manning in return, if I'm not mistaken. And you went.
That didn't work out too well.
Exactly. A lot of people don't even remember Danny Manning playing with the Hawks.
And nothing, against Danny. I mean, it's a business. I understand that. But you trade a guy who was having a outstanding year, averaging close to 30 points a game. We was on top of the Eastern Conference. We was primed to, challenge for another title. I mean, for a chance to have a go at the title. But they made that trade, man, and it's like they just faded away after that.
Yeah. Hey, but you're right back with the organization. So, I guess if different people were running the organization at that time, you would have never left, or you would have left on your own terms. I think that's the best way to handle.
No question. Tell you, they had the management and ownership that we have now, and knowing that we were a winning team and the player was playing as good as he ever played, I'm thinking they made that trade.
No doubt.
It's great ownership we have now, and they understand value and longevity, especially when you're doing your job, and that's what it comes down. When you're doing your job, you're doing it to the best of your ability. There should be a reward for that.
Yeah,
but in those days it wasn't like that.
That was a head scratcher. And speaking of another head scratcher for me, 25 years ago, the league announced their 50 greatest players for their 50th anniversary. This upcoming season, next year to be exact, the 75th anniversary team will be announced. Do you think the NBA will correct their mistake and have you appear on the list of the 75 greatest players?
I hope they would. We'll see.
Yeah,
I hope so.
I hope so too, and hopefully, we're gonna start getting this thing going for you, this momentum, because I felt like you should have been on the 50th greatest players, but 75 definitely should have Dominique Wilkins on it, because, like you said, you were slept on a lot in your career. I don't know if it was because of the market, but whatever the case may be.
I just tell you, nothing ever surprised me. And at the time, I was snubbed. I was 7th all-time leading scorer in history.
Wow.
So. Hey, it is what it is.
Well, we're going to see. You know what? We're going to go ahead and speak this thing to existence, man, because like I said, we got to give our legends their flowers while they're here to smell them and walk around and put water in them. We can't wait. So that's what we're going to do here, and we're going to get this train rolling for you. We're going to transition to the superlative part of your show and let you go. I want your honest, unbiased answer, Dominique. I know you handle pressure well. We're going to hit you with a full court press and see if you can get the length of the court. Greatest player you ever played with?
The greatest player I ever played with, I think in his prime, is like Dan Roundfield.
What made him? What did he do?
He was the prototypical power forward who could score, who could rebound, great defensive player, and taught me a lot about the game.
Okay. Best in-game dunker ever?
Besides me?
Yeah, besides you. Besides you.
Oh, man, there's a lot of guys, man. Ooh, Vince Carter is one of those guys. Michael Jordan. You can't say just one guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible. But, you got Michael Jordan at the top of the list, Vince Carter, Dr. J.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a laundry list, right?
It's a laundry list, Sean Kemp. I mean, it's too many guys. It's too many guys to say one guy is the best in-game dunker. I mean, you got to get that people never talk about, which is crazy to me. It's Clyde Drexler. Clyde the Glide. When your nickname is the Glide, you know you the real deal, right? Man, let me tell you something. Glide was the truth, man.
Clyde come off that 1 foot and get caught sleeping at the rim if you want to.
I see him go to the corner of the free throw line against us in Portland. And when he got to the rim, he was sideways. So, yeah, I've seen it all.
All right. Best pure scorer ever.
I would, I'm going to go because he got more points than anybody in history league is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Okay.
He has the most unguardable shot in NBA history. And that's
Skyhook. That's Skyhook. That's Skyhook. No question. If you had a chance to create a super team in the 80s, who is your big three?
Man, I would probably, at that time, the three guys I would play with is Jordan, Magic, Kareem, and it's a toss-up here, but Karl Malone.
Man, Karl Malone was hell, right? Man,
was he?
Huh. Yes. Ooh, this is a tough one for you. Biggest star in Atlanta in 1990, Dominique or Deion Sanders?
Is that a trick question?
No, it's not. Who was the biggest star in Atlanta in 1990?
Well, I was here longer than all those guys.
Yeah. So it was still when prime time came, it still was your city.
Yeah, I mean, I had already established that,
Did you guys ever intertwine, when you on your leisure time, you in prime time?
Prime was my man.
Yeah.
He's a great dude. Yeah. Yeah, Prime was a good dude. Yeah.
Okay. Last question for you. True or false? Trae Young will deliver an NBA championship to Atlanta in the next 4 to 5 years.
I hope so. That's the goal. That's the goal. And I think you have a player of his talent and the people around him that your goal is to win that, elusive title.
Yeah.
And I think if all the stars align, we get right and keep the right pieces and have the right pieces, yeah, we will get there.
No doubt. What do you think? Hiring Nate McMillan was huge. That was the first accomplishment in getting ready for another outstanding season. But what do you think the Hawks are missing? What are they missing being able to be able to make it to the finals?
Well, maturity is one. It's just continue to mature. And I thought they showed some maturity in this playoff, man. What they've done is nothing short of remarkable.
Yeah. And
I couldn't be more proud of these guys, man. And sky's the limit for our young Atlanta Hawks team.
No doubt, man. And I appreciate you, Dominique, joining me here. All things covered. Patrick Peterson, Bryant McFadden, man, an unbelievable conversation with a living legend. Man, recapping your outstanding career, talking about the current state of the NBA and the Atlanta Hawks. And let's go. The NBA, you're on the clock. The 75th team will be released sooner than later. You got to have Dominique on there.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot, brother.